So what has made the most impact on you? Is it the environment you've been living in, the ways that you've been raised, those components? Is that what shaped how you've been developing? Or is it the innate nature? Is it that genetic component that's predisposed you to be who you are? This is an ongoing question. Psychologists, all sorts of individuals. Is it nature or is it nurture? Which of those components have the strongest impact in our development? And as you might recall from some previous conversations we've had, it's both. And it's both, and it's both. It's called epigenetics. There's an interaction between these two. So nature plays a role, and so does nurture. We're going to talk about development. We're going to talk about development over the whole lifespan, from conception all the way to the end of life, old age and death. That's what this chapter is about. In psychology, lifespan development studies how we change, and also how we change and how well it can be established that this is kind of who you are. Now, babies are born and we see some evidence maybe of some characteristics, but the question is, are those going to be the characteristics that are going to be there from birth to the end of time? We don't know. And the problem is, if we think back to a previous chapter on memory, the retelling of these stories, it makes this really hard to know if are we adding some aspects to this? Are they really there? But psychologists that study development, especially over the lifespan, these are the questions that they're interested in. When we think about lifespan development, it's actually going to cover three different areas. It's going to talk about the physical development of a human being. It's going to talk about the cognitive development, how things change and move along in our cognitive understanding and engagement with our world. And then the psychosocial development, how we become more social and engaged, aware of our interactions with others. And that gets to be larger and larger as all of those cognitive and physical components develop. So we don't just develop one and then develop another. They all interface together at the same time, and we see developmental milestones that might be expected and come along in the development of an individual. When we look at this, one of the questions about those developmental milestones is what is normal versus what is maybe not normal development. And the reason we come up with those milestones, or what is normative, what's to be expected, is because we've studied a lot of individuals as they've developed, and we've noticed that these are expected timelines. So we're going to look at some of the ages, the developmental components that are expected at certain points in the course of a human baby growing up into adulthood. There's two ways that we can think about this, and different theorists are going to emphasize different aspects of this. There's continuous or discontinuous development. So continuous means it's just always kind of working together in this developmental flow, whereas discontinuous is almost like you have to have something met and check that off before you can move on to the next developmental step. And there's no real clear sense of whether it's one or the other. Much like nature and nurture, this is probably an area where we need to understand there's probably a little bit of both and. So there are aspects of how we develop that is a continuous moving along, whereas discontinuous is probably you work on this and then you can move forward. Those are two concepts to keep in mind as we think about some of those different areas of development moving through this chapter. Other things related to how the theorists think about development have to do with, is there just one way that an individual can move through development, or are there multiple courses? For example, does a baby have to learn to walk after it learns how to crawl, or can it learn how to walk and then learn to crawl? Which of those is the right way? Is there a right way? Those are the kinds of components. Is there one right plan that's supposed to happen, or are there multiple options? And I think you probably get that I'm going to lean towards there's no one right way, but there are preferred ways that have been found to be more developmentally strong depending on the community, culture, and support system that individuals are in. So this is where we're going. We're going to talk about the biological, the cognitive, and the psychosocial development that we as humans go through. You're going to understand probably some stuff that you've heard before, but maybe in a different timeline. This is lifespan development.